Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks and you are checking out a Serum tutorial on ADSRsounds.com. So in this video, we are going to be looking at how you can create a kind of a sidechained white noise style effect. So the reason why I wanted to do this is I got some questions coming through on some other videos, like how I do the effects and swells, and a lot of times I'll try to do them in synths. And ever since I've been using Serum, it's been one of my favorite synthesizers to kind of mess around with this white noise style effect that has like a side-chained rhythmic element to it, because the LFOs inside of Serum are very powerful, and you can sculpt sidechain shapes like what the LFO tool gives you, if you guys know what that is, and you can do all these really cool shapes, and you also get so many noise types that it's becoming one of my favorite synths to come up with effects and transitional sounds. So I'm going to take out the bass right now in this little demo, and this is a good example of coming out of a drop or coming into a drop. And it helps to fill that section right when the drop starts, so the ear, it just sounds so big to the ear, because you're coming out of all these snares and, transitional elements, and usually have like a big explosive snare like this one right here. Sometimes it's hard to keep that momentum going in a drop. And so one thing that a lot of producers or DJs will do is that they will layer in this kind of gated, side-chained sounding white noise effect that just fills out the noise, fills out the stereo field and just the audio spectrum, and it can really make things sound big. So it's really easy to do inside of Serum. So without further ado, let's actually start recreating the sound. It's really easy to make, definitely one of the easier sounds to make inside of Serum, in my opinion. So let's zero out, going to initialize a preset. And with this sound, we don't want any oscillators except the noise oscillator. So we're just going to turn off oscillator A. And then what we need to do, obviously, is turn on or activate the noise oscillator. And you can choose really any noise that you want. There's tons of great ones for white noise and bright noise. You could use some from the analog menu, but the one that I used in this demo, I really like messing around with these air can ones. And I really hope they're modeled after an actual air can, because that would be awesome. So I used air can 2, I believe. All right, so it's that easy, right? That's the actual sound. Now, the only thing you have to do outside of that is just shape it and make it actually sound more like something that you use in a musical context, not just white noise. So to do that, let's activate the filter. And by default, inside of Serum, the noise generator won't be routed into the filter. So if you just turn it on, the sound will remain the same. So click and activate this little illumination by the N symbol for noise. And now the noise oscillator is being routed in. So I'm just going to keep this on a low filter. You can play around with different filter types to get kind of interesting results, but for this, we'll just keep it on the low 12. We're going to turn the cutoff up all the way. Don't need the resonance up. We're going to turn the mix, keep it where it is. Maybe add a little bit of drive so it's a little louder. All right, so the magic in this sound is going to happen with the LFO. So with this LFO, what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to create a shape here. Have a custom shape. So drag your top, the first dot all the way up to the top, and then go a few grids over, double click to get another point. And then what you're going to do is kind of drag down on these different points here, and you kind of want it to have this slight curvature to it. So we don't want all these points. Drag those in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stop a little bit at the center line right here, a little bit above the end, and then drag this out. So it's like this type of shape, and then we'll do another line so we get more abrupt with it at the end. So you kind of have this weird reverse sidechain shape. We're going to drag this up a little at the top. All right, so it should look something similar to that. And you can play around with the shapes too. There's also these sidechain shapes that you can, sidechain shapes, that is such a tongue twister for me. You can use these different presets if you'd like to mess around with it, but I like using this custom shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this modulator into our filter, our cutoff filter, and we're just going to drag back a little bit. All right, so it's that easy. And now what we can do to make the sound a little bit cooler, we're going to go to our our third LFO here, and you can do this in the first or fourth one if you want, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep it on this shape, but we're going to change the rate to 2 bars, so it's a little bit slower. Keep it on BPM and anchored, so it's triggered, with the BPM of the song, and we're going to drag and drop this onto our pan position of our noise. Now you want to make sure that you're working with and it should by default, when you drop the LFOs on the pan position in the noise, it should give you a both positive and negative modulation depth. See how it's going out left and right? So you want that. You don't want, if you do get this where it's just going to one side, all you need to do is hit Shift, Option, and click, or if you're a PC user, I believe it'd be Shift, Alt, and click. And then just drag this out a little bit. And now it kind of sweeps back and forth in the stereo field, which is a really cool effect to fill out the actual mix, which is what the whole goal of this is. All right, and let's go back now to LFO2, and we're going to apply, we're going to do the same thing that we did basically with the filter. So let's turn the level up so this gets a lot louder, and we're going to take the modulator for LFO2, and we're going to drag this all the way down. So now we have a really bouncy, rhythmic sound, which is cool, and that will sound good with the drop. So let's listen. All right, so now that we have that pretty much squared away, what we can do is I'm going to go to my second envelope, and we're going to create like a little different shape here and modulate just a little bit. So we're going to turn the decay down, turn the release up. Don't turn the decay down that much. You want to have the sustain out a little bit. So have the sustain at probably about 5%. Turn the decay up to about 290 milliseconds or around there. And we're going to just modulate the cutoff filter just a little bit with this. All right, you can check mono for this because you shouldn't be playing more than one note. It'll save some CPU processing. All right, so now we got the actual sound pretty much dialed in. We can go to our effects tab and we can add some effects. Now this is one of the coolest features to doing this type of sound inside of a synth is you get a lot of effects and a lot of control over the sound, but the best thing is, and I haven't even touched on this yet and I should have in the beginning, is that everything's going to be tempo synced, or it's going to be really easy to tempo sync. For instance, if you buy a sample pack that has noise swells, you don't know how to make them, and you don't want to work in a tempo that's like 128 beats per minute or 125 or whatever, you want to be different, it's going to be kind of hard. You'd have to change the tempo of the audio file. It's really easy to work with inside of a synth and then change the tempo of your track or your production, and you don't have the headache of changing the samples and all that sort of stuff. So that being said, let's activate the phaser, and I'm just doing this to taste just to add some character to the sound so it's not just straight white noise. I'm going to turn the mix down a little. All right, so just to add a little bit of character to it, we're going to turn on the delay, and with the delay, we're going to do a left time of a half note. So drag upwards, and make sure BPM is selected. I'm going to keep the feedback pretty much where it is, carve out a little bit of the high and lows, and then turn the mix down, and change it to ping pong. All right, and might even add a little bit of a compressor. Threshold, I'm going to keep where it is, the ratio where it is. Might turn the attack down a little bit, turn the release down, turn the gain up just a pinch. And finally, we're going to switch the position of the EQ and reverb. And with this EQ, what we're going to do is carve out any of the lows. There doesn't appear to be any right now, but we definitely don't want any in this. Off the reverb for now. And then we might even boost a little bit of the highs. All right, and finally, the reverb. Now, the reverb in Serum, I love this synth, but I hate the reverb inside of Serum. I just don't like how it sounds. It sounds really plasticky to my ears, and I don't even know if that makes sense. Like, plastic doesn't have a sound, but that's how I'm describing it. So that being said, I would rather go outside of Serum for this, but I'll turn the size up to about halfway, keep the pre-delay where it is, keep the low cut down, keep the damp pretty much where it is. You can turn it up a little bit, width, and turn the mix down a little. I don't hate that. I can also put an instance of a reverb that I like on it, turn the mix down. And then that would be the combo of the two reverbs. So let's listen to this with that little drop. I'll bring the bass back in to see how everything's sounding. All right, and the final thing that you'd want to do, and this is outside of the synth, but you don't want that noise to be playing most of the time. You're not going to want it to be played through the whole drop section. So what you can do is you can just automate the volume down, like I did with the intro track that we were working with. So if I bring that back in and solo this, you'll see that I just automated some of the volume down here. So it kind of tails out after the drop. There it is, guys. If you have any questions or comments, let me know below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.